And we're live. What's good, Ohio Cannabis Report family? It's your boy Gerald Moore Jr. I know I've been off for a few days. It's summertime, and so daddy duty calls. I have my kids and my nephews during the week, so we've been pretty busy just being active. You know what I mean? All the things they say about cannabis consumers and parenting and I like to go against all of those stereotypical tropes that they like to throw at people that, cannabis consumers can't be good parents or can't be responsible or active. You know what I mean? If you followed me, you know that I'm a very active parent and father and community member. So that's why you haven't seen me posting a lot of content here on YouTube. But I decided to do a late night. I'm up. I was just doing some research. I just finished an article. Make sure you guys follow us on Substack. I just uploaded another article on Substack, basically covering all the things Ohio politics, from tax money to cannabis to just the political nonsense that's going on in the state of Ohio. But again, I want to thank everybody for all the support, all of the subscriptions and the follows on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, anywhere that you follow us, Facebook. I really want to thank everybody for connecting. Shout out to everybody that I got to connect with at the Ohio Cannabis Expo, which we will be going over a recap on how that event went the other week. I was on 2 panels. I helped to produce the Athletes in Cannabis panel, and I was a moderator on the social equity panel, which was a great discussion between a group of Ohioans. So, again, with no further ado, again, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Ohio Cannabis Report, your number one spot for all Ohio cannabis news, culture, commentary, and all things Ohio cannabis. So today, we're going to start out just with a few of our headlines. And a few of the headlines that we have today is that Ohio is still obviously navigating the new laws, right? SB 56, which again is a law that was put into place to essentially gut what we Ohioans voted for overwhelmingly, right? 57% of Ohioans voted for cannabis legalization, adult use, recreational use, public consumption, social equity funds, where social equity money would go back into communities most harmed by the war on drugs, helping with addiction, education, workforce development, roads, anything that we deemed necessary with these funds. Also, those funds were meant to help small entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who want to get into the cannabis industry, but couldn't afford, obviously, the expensive cost of licensing and building out a dispensary, cultivator, processing facility, or just dealing with the legal loopholes that Ohio has put into place. And so, again, SB 56 has been a huge roadblock for a lot of Ohioans who are interested in getting into the cannabis industry. Obviously, there have been crimes and penalties put into place with SB 56, traveling across state lines and purchasing legally purchased cannabis from places like Michigan, and then bringing that across state lines is now a criminal offense. Obviously, cannabis is still federally illegal, even though there's been a lot of the talks about rescheduling of cannabis. Cannabis is still federally illegal, right? And one of our pushes is for descheduling cannabis completely, right? Decriminalizing cannabis completely. Rescheduling doesn't really do the average person, the average Ohioan, any justice or any good. So we're all for descheduling, decriminalizing cannabis at the federal level. But again, SB 56 now makes it a criminal penalty, to travel up to Michigan, which again, a lot of people do. We know anytime I've gone up to Michigan and go to, Monroe, which is the easiest stop for me, the parking lot's full of Ohio license plates. Where again, a lot of people in Ohio right now, even with gas prices are fluctuating. I just saw some place where it was below $4, where I haven't seen gas below $4 in a month or two, maybe even longer. But again, it's still cheaper for people to go up to Michigan to purchase cannabis than it is for them to purchase it in Ohio. Now, one of those reasons is we only have 200 dispensaries in a state of 11.8 million people. Our dispensaries are sparsed out. I think Columbus, Franklin County has about 14 dispensaries. Your major population, Cincinnati, has a few. Columbus has a few, and then obviously Cuyahoga County up in Cleveland, and then they're just spread out all around the state. But also with SB 56, they capped dispensaries at 400. So only 400 dispensaries for the state. Again, we're only at half of that currently in the state. So obviously SB 56 is a huge hindrance to, one, the growth of the cannabis business industry within Ohio. Obviously a lot of events, it's summertime, so a lot of events are, obviously being canceled that were cannabis friendly, because people are afraid that there will be raids, there will be a drug task force, which will go into our first headline of tonight's episode. A vendor that is known to have cannabis, or known to vend cannabis for veterans and things of that nature, was detained at a family-friendly event that was private, but apparently a drug task force was allowed to come in over like a mile and a half or a half a mile drive into this private event space, and they detained and took away cannabis products from this vendor. Now, again, I got the tip from a cannabis-friendly advocate, somebody that is deeply rooted in cannabis advocacy out of Athens, and so she's the one that tipped me off. Shout out to Rodney Hennessy, Rodney Hash on Instagram, who's also been following this story. But apparently, again, everybody knows this guy sells cannabis. So my thing is, if you knew this guy, donates cannabis, or produces cannabis, and is at venues or and vends events, why would you allow him to be a vendor at your event? So it kind of looks like a setup, it sounds like a setup, because apparently he was the only one detained, he was the only one that had products taken off his vendor table, happened to be a black man as well. So again, still getting a lot of details from this occurrence. But again, this is something that is still developing. And so I will continue to bring you guys updates as we continue to hear more information. But make sure you follow us on Instagram. Follow people like Rodney Hash on Instagram. He does a lot of advocacy work for workers in the cannabis industry, really trying to, shed light on some of the issues within the dispensaries and cultivators, and how people are being treated within the cannabis industry, right? The proper industry. But he also, focuses on a lot of other community things that happen in the community as well. So apparently it was a sheriff's office, and then partially a drug task force, unmarked cars, all blacked out vehicles. I'm gonna see if I can find that video again for you guys as well, because that was something that obviously was pretty big in the community. Let me see. And then what other? Then we have a judge upholds the decision to allow one intoxicating hemp business to sell their products in Ohio. This is out of Sandusky. There's also, I think, 2 in Franklin County that have been allowed to continue to sell their products. So I'm going to share this video with you guys. Just give me a second here.
We are hearing from hemp retailers who are back in business, at least for now, after a Franklin County judge partially blocked a new law banning intoxicating hemp products.
In a lawsuit, hemp retailers claim state lawmakers violated the Ohio Constitution with that ban. A ruling temporarily blocking the ban came down yesterday, but it only applies to 2 retailers named in the suit. Retailers tell us it gives them a chance to sell off stock they would have had to throw away.
I feel like our voices are being heard. I'm just thankful of the TRO, extension that we have at the moment to give us the opportunity to stay in business.
The temporary block will be in effect at least until the next court hearing, which will likely happen in about 2 weeks from now.
New tonight at 5.
So again, the hemp ban is still obviously being enforced. So obviously that has forced a lot of these smaller businesses to shut down. It has forced hemp beverage companies to either shut down or find new ways to get their products outside of the state of Ohio. Obviously, we're connected with Appalachian Girls Cannabis out of Athens, Ohio, which was one of our vendors and sponsors. I actually personally, outside of Ohio Cannabis Report, was marketing and advertising for them as a brand ambassador and marketing partner, but they've been forced to obviously stop selling their products in the state of Ohio. I know they're out in Kentucky right now and West Virginia. If you are interested in supporting them, you can go to appgirlscannabis.com and see where they're located. But again, we are fighting to get, small businesses like App Girls Cannabis, which is, again, a locally owned and operated cannabis company, back into the state where they can sell their products. There are a few bars and breweries that also had, switched over to producing THC drinks that, again, they are forced to now produce those drinks and sell them out of state because, again, it is now illegal to sell hemp beverages or intoxicating hemp products in the state of Ohio. So, again, there's a lot of motion there, a lot of movement, obviously a lot of legal things, legality issues that are going on in the courts. And then obviously a lot of people are talking about how, these laws are infringing on our civil rights because, again, with issue or SB 56, you can no longer publicly consume cannabis. Again, unless you own a home, you have to smoke at your home, right? But if you can't smoke in the car, you can't smoke at a park, you can't smoke at your apartment, where are you supposed to consume cannabis at? And so for a lot of people, obviously, these new laws and rules are restricting people's, freedoms and civil liberties to just, live and exist as cannabis patients, cannabis consumers. So those are some of the biggest issues that have come out of what we've been dealing with here in Ohio. Let me look at my list of other topics. Obviously, things have been very slow too, right? This was another topic that I did bring up in another episode prior, but the One Ohio Recovery Foundation, which was a foundation that started from the pharmaceutical lawsuit, the opioid lawsuit, where over, I think, $1 billion was won by the state of Ohio to be disseminated to the citizens of Ohio. But apparently now they're using $20 million of cannabis money to educate folks on the harms of cannabis for pregnant women and expecting mothers and youth. But I haven't seen any education coming out about not using opioids or alcohol, but also just cannabis as an alternative for opioids, right? Because many of us understand in the cannabis community that cannabis is an alternative to like opioids, right? It's an alternative to pain pills and things that people, have consumed for a long time that, again, it destroys your intestines, your gut, all these things, right? And so cannabis is a more natural remedy for a lot of different ailments and illnesses. So we should be educating folks on how cannabis could be used alternatively to opioids, alcohol, right? A lot of people use alcohol for recreational purposes, but also people are stressed, people have anxiety, people are dealing with depression, people are tired after work and they just want to hang out. So again, beer, alcohol, wine, a little bit cheaper to get. And so again, obviously Ohio is not going to go against the liquor sales because they need those liquor sales for Jobs Ohio. So again, there's just a lot of things happening right now in the cannabis space in the state of Ohio that is really preventing our industry, preventing the cannabis community from really growing and thriving how it should be. Obviously, OCAN, the Ohio Cannabis Coalition, which is made up of member organizations that are legal cannabis companies in the state of Ohio. They have been some of the biggest backers and advocates for SB 56 because, again, they don't want the competition, right? They don't want the smaller growers to get, their foot in the door, right? So they want to keep those people on the legacy market, the black market. I don't like calling it the black market. Obviously, you can see I'm a black man, brown, black man. So black would insinuate that we are illegal or we do bad things. We don't talk about white collar criminals all like that. You know what I mean? But again, just like we want to get away from using the term marijuana, right? Because marijuana is not even a real term. It's a racist term that was used, perfected by Harry Anslinger. This is why people also need to do their history and their research on cannabis and the cannabis culture and community. I know a lot of people find the cannabis culture and community cool now that it's legal and that you can go be a bud tender or work at a cultivation facility, processor, or be a cannabis influencer. But again, most people don't even know the history around why cannabis is illegal, the communities that have been disproportionately harmed by prohibition and the laws around cannabis. So I think people need to do that research because, again, I know it's cool. I know, cannabis is the in thing right now. It's trending, it's trendy. But again, there are a lot of people that have had their lives disrupted because of cannabis laws that have locked people up, taken people away from their families, taking job opportunities, educational opportunities, obviously economic opportunities from away from whole communities that now you have, millionaires coming into the industry, capitalizing off of the cannabis industry while not even giving back money to those communities, right? Because again, that 36% social equity social equity fund was supposed to go back to communities most harmed by the war on drugs. So again, it's all connected. It's all tied in. We like to talk about the prison population. We like to talk about violence. We like to talk about crime. But again, a lot of, people are locked up for nonviolent cannabis offenses, right? So again, that's important that we recognize that, and we also work to undo those harms, right? And we work to address those harms because, again, it may not be in your community, right? It may not be somebody that you're directly connected to. But again, there are a lot of people that have been harmed by this that, again, shouldn't be in jail or shouldn't be on probation or shouldn't have a record. But again, have to carry a record while you have white girls on Instagram talking about they're illegal drug dealers. When you have real drug dealers or real, caregivers behind bars or, dealing with the prison system, the prison industrial complex. So again, I think it's important that we do that research, but we also do the knowledge and we do what we can to use our privilege to shine a light on the injustices, the inequality, not only in our culture, just period, but in the cannabis space. So that's something that I always advocate for because, again, I'm not a true grower. You know what I mean? I like to smoke weed. I like the benefits of cannabis. But I was never really a grower, you know what I mean? And so I understand that there are people that really out there that are really passionate about the plant, that really love the plant, really love growing the plant, spending time with the plant, finding special strains and being able to cultivate those things for specific purposes. And so those should be the people that we are constantly trying to uplift and promote in our communities, not these corporate juggernauts who could just throw millions of dollars, in the cannabis industry. Don't treat their employees that well, and then don't treat their consumers and the patients well, right? Because again, if cannabis for medicinal purposes, we still have a medical industry, and now you have whole groups of, industry folks that seem to not care that this is a medical industry, and that the patients should come first. And so again, that's what we advocate for consistently. And so we want to, send a shout out to everybody that is fighting that fight, that is advocating for those people who have been wronged. But also let you know that here at Ohio Cannabis Report, we see you, we support you. and let us know anything that we can do. If you want to come on the show, I know we have a few people who we got to get back into the interviews, but we have a few people that we've connected with that have been impacted with cannabis through the prison system. And again, a lot of people, fear sharing their stories publicly sometimes, and we completely understand that. But again, just know this is a safe space. And also, I want to bring this out because somebody called me a industry plant the other day, and I mean, it came out of nowhere. But again, I'm not in the industry. Like, I don't work for any of these cannabis companies. Ohio Cannabis Report is something that is independently owned by me, produced, created solely by me. I am not backed by anybody. Trust me, if I was backed, my setup would probably be a lot more crisp, right? But this is literally ground floor startup in my garage. You know what I mean? I'll show you behind we in the garage. So, if I was an industry plant, you know what I mean? OCAN would be paying me. These cannabis companies would be paying me. But again, I've gone against a lot of these cannabis companies because, again, where the fuck did they come from? Like, how do you just come take over the cannabis plant and just deem yourself as like industry experts, industry leaders when y'all don't even consume cannabis, right? And so that's where, I get kind of lost and confused because it's like, I'm just a media guy. You know what I mean? I'm just a personality. I'm a patient, in the cannabis industry. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. So, I'm a patient, first I got my medical card, and I'm a cannabis consumer. I'm a novice grower, you know what I mean? So I do like to try to grow. But again, my support is for home growers, caregivers, caretakers, and people who really understand and love the plant. And I'm for the people, you know what I mean? I want more people to be able to benefit economically from the plant. And so I support caregivers and home growers' rights. So that's where I stand. So again, shout out to the dude that called me an industry plant. You know what I mean? I don't know where it came from. Thanks for engaging in the content, though. It means the content is definitely reaching new people. And you're always going to have haters. You know what I mean? You're always going to have people that, in the social media world, the internet world, in life in general, when you're doing things, you're always going to have people that, combat, anything that you have going on, right? And add negativity to what you're doing. So again, shout out to that dude. Also, shout out to, I think we are at like, let me see. We just hit a new milestone on our Ohio Cannabis Report page. So we just hit 1,041 followers on our backup Instagram page. Let me see where we are on our other one. We're at 2,473 on our original page. So what is that? That's over 3,000. Excuse me. Over 3,000 followers combined. Yep. So almost 4,000 followers on our Instagram pages, which again, we appreciate, and we appreciate all the love and support that we've gotten so far, through these channels. Let me see where we are. And then on our Facebook page, we got 414 followers. So again, steady climb, steady build. Make sure you guys follow us on all of our different platforms: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Let's see where we are on TikTok. a young man by the name of Cyrus. I haven't posted too much on our TikTok, but we almost had 2,000 followers on our TikTok. So I probably need to start posting more on our TikTok too, because we've gotten some pretty good following on there as well. So again, shout out to everybody that's followed and supported us thus far. Let me see where we are on YouTube. YouTube. On YouTube, we're at 403 subs. So again, shout out to everybody who continues to support and show love. We're going to continue to bring you the content. You know what I mean? We're going to continue to create. We're going to continue to show you guys what's going on in the cannabis space here in Ohio. Let me get I had some notes that I wanted to share with you guys. But yeah, it's been pretty slow, you know what I mean, in terms of you got the same stuff, the same old stuff going on. There is a lobby day coming up, so I will share that with you guys as well. So Civics Cannabis is hosting a lobby day coming up. So I'm gonna share the screen with you guys for that one. So you can go to civicscannabis.org. Here's their lobby day, 6/8/26. So next Monday, this coming Monday. Why are we hosting a lobby day? Dr. Greenlove Lobby Day at the Capitol is designed to bring people together around one shared goal, creating a more informed, effective, and collaborative cannabis framework in Ohio. As cannabis policy continues to evolve, including the implementation of SB 56, there is a growing need for clear communication between those shaping the laws and those experiencing their impact. Lobby Day provides a structured environment where consumers, policymakers, industry professionals, and community stakeholders can engage directly in meaningful dialogue. This event is guided by the 4 pillars of civics cannabis: legislation, understanding how laws are written, interpreted, and implemented; law enforcement, exploring how policy is applied in real-world settings; science and health, promoting informed, evidence-based perspectives; the cannabis industry, examining access markets dynamics and consumer experience. Through these pillars, Lobby Day emphasizes 3 core principles: education, providing clarity on how cannabis policy affects daily life; cooperation, encouraging open, respectful dialogue across all stakeholders; coordination, identifying opportunities to improve outcomes through collaboration. By bringing these perspectives together, Lobby Day strengthens the connection between policy and people, supporting a cannabis framework in Ohio that continues to evolve with transparency, insight, and engagement from the communities it serves. So yeah, make sure y'all go check that out if you have time on Monday. Here's the schedule, the agenda. So again, June 8th, 2026 at the Ohio State House from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The welcoming open remarks, including to civics cannabis, overview of the day's purpose, setting expectations, education, cooperation, coordination. 10:15, Rep. Juanita Brent, focus legislative landscape and current policy direction, followed by short Q&A. Patrick Higgins, legislative advocacy from, I believe he's from ACLU. Legislative panel, you have Joe Girard, Ohio District 3 congressional primary candidate. State Senator William DeMora, Bill DeMora, Columbus City Council member Nick Bankston, James Mills, Lieutenant Governor candidate. Topics: policy intent, implementation, and future direction. Then you have lunch networking, then media quarter interviews, sponsor engagement, and then afternoon welcome reset brief. Then you have Josh Kroger, health science and home growing. You got Mary Jane Borden, Community Advocacy Perspective. Then you have Community Impact Panel, Tim Johnson, Cannabis Safety First, Doug Meager, Balanced Veteran Network, Wes Bryant, 420 Craft Brews, Tasha Roundtree, Cannabis Advocate and Dayton Community Leader, Rodney Hash, independent journalist, content creator, focused real world impact of cannabis legislation. Then closing remarks at 3:45. And so, yeah, make sure y'all check that out. Follow Civics Cannabis on all social media platforms, OhioCannabisLobbyDay.org to register for the event. So, again, that'll be a big one to definitely be paying attention to. See if there's any other articles out here that can be shared. All right, we got it's Columbus, Georgia. All right, you have August 6th will mark 2 years since recreational marijuana started being sold legally in Ohio. Youngstown-based growing and processing facility Riviera Creek is located on Crescent Street. It's been around for 9 years and has continued to grow since recreational use started 22 months ago. The business is integral to the state's cannabis industry, and Brian Kessler, one of its owners, says business is good. Quote, we're over 10,000 pounds of cannabis, which is in units, is usually 1 gram or smaller, tens of millions of units, Kessler said. There are now 110 people who work at Riviera Creek, and it's continuing to expand. The business is adding 2 new grow rooms, which will bring the number to 12. And they are also adding an addition to the building. We're the #1 brand in the state. We're the #1 high quality product that you can buy in Ohio. And we have really loyal following, which is really exciting. And as we introduce new products, they've been well received. So back in the day, we had our 4 SKUs, literally 4 items that we sold. And today we probably have 60, Kessler said that with the advent of recreational use, it has projected that Ohio's marijuana industry would produce $2 billion a year. Quote, it came in under $1 billion and it's still not $2 billion. The growth looks like $1.2 billion to $1.4 billion at most. Yeah, that's because you guys aren't marketing, advertising. There's no delivery. You know, you're trying to crush the cannabis market. The table in the Riviera Creek conference room had a sampling of those products, including vials and joints filled with marijuana. There were other new products such as free-dried caramel flavored edibles, an alternative to chewing gummies. There are 3 for $10. Quote, this doesn't exist, not just in Ohio. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world, Kessler said. In September, Riviera Creek will introduce $20 DIY rib sticks containing 3 pre-rolls and 1 gram of marijuana. Quote, take a pour whatever amount you want, Kessler said. The clear Riv stick for $24 will come in August. It's a new type of rolling paper designed not to absorb moisture and to keep a pre-rolled joint fresher for longer. Kessler said Riviera Creek is also looking to develop drinks infused with THC that could possibly be sold in bars. He also hopes the federal government legalizes marijuana for medical use because it could allow the company to sell its products overseas. So as you can see, that's probably why, again, these cannabis companies were against the hemp companies selling drinks, because now they want to sell drinks, right? And so again, it's, big bank take little bank when it comes to a lot of these issues. We read that one. So yeah, it hasn't been too much. It hasn't been a whole lot of movement since obviously SB 56 has gone into law. There's been a few events that I know that are more cannabis friendly that have been postponed or canceled. I think Stargazer's going on. There was a Rolling Bowl. Also, I wanted to do a recap on the Ohio Cannabis Expo. So again, shout out to Anthony Riley for the Ohio Cannabis Expo. That was last weekend. It was last week or week before. But it was a great event. He had some cannabis companies there from the industry. I think they had some job interviews on site. There was a bunch of great panels. There was a veteran panel. There was a social equity panel, athletes and cannabis panel, which I was on those too. There was a home growers workshop. There was a women in cannabis panel. So there's a lot of great opportunities to network and learn from people in the community, in the industry doing great work. And so I had a great time meeting some great people, meeting people that, follow me on social media or have seen the work that I do, that I was able to finally meet into person. Again, I'm somebody, obviously I do the social media, I do the internet stuff, but I'm a real person. So I like to engage with people in reality and real life and, really connect on that wave as well. So shout out to everybody that I met at the Ohio Cannabis Expo. Shout out to Ohio Cannabis Live, Anthony Riley for putting it on and for having me. I'll be at the next one for sure. But again, I think it was also a testament to show that we need to do more events, right? We need to be having more conversations. We need to be doing more education. This industry is alive. It's real. You know what I mean? Whether you can own a dispensary, cultivator, processor or not, we should still be having the conversations around healthcare, the benefits of cannabis, the industry opportunities, from all vantage points, right? Not just the cultivation, processing, and selling and dispensing side, but also just culture, right? Just lifestyle, I think is very important. So like me as an athlete, cannabis is a part of my athletic process. You know what I mean? Before I work out, I like to, hit a bowl, hit a joint every now and again, take an edible before I go for a walk or do a jog. Cannabis helps me come down and relax my body. So there are a lot of different, ways that cannabis can be used, and that we can actually talk about cannabis in a healthy, safe, respectful way where it doesn't always have to be, smoking joints or, just having a good time. So I think it's important that we have events like Anthony put on. I think he did a great job connecting the industry side plus the legacy side and merging those things together. He did a great job merging industry, patients, and caregivers all collectively together. So shout out to Anthony for that. I know obviously some people had issues with obviously OCAN companies. Again, I don't rock with OCAN companies, but what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like you can't, combat everything all the time. And so I think we need to hold those companies accountable for what they are doing in the industry. and, you know, get them to use their money and resources in the proper way. But again, it's still a brand new industry. It's still, you know, a lot of growing pains and a lot of room to grow and learn and evolve. And as people in the cannabis community, we have to be the ones to hold these people's feet to the fire to get them to do the right thing, right? And so I'm gonna just leave y'all with that. We're gonna hit this joint and then we're gonna go lay down. But again, I appreciate y'all. Again, if y'all follow me, this is just a disclaimer. This is for entertainment, educational purposes only, fair use. You know what I mean? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. So this is just, again, independent media. So take it for what you want. I smoked to that. Then let me see if we could find, we need some.
Is one Harry J. Anslinger. Anslinger was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics from 1930 to 1962. And during that time, he concocted a strategy built on hypocrisy, racism, and sensationalist fear-mongering to demonize cannabis that resulted in the marijuana tax of 1937 and nearly 100 years of prejudice against pot smokers. But before we do that, be sure you subscribe to the Weird History channel and leave a comment below. All right. Anslinger had been a longtime proponent of banning alcohol before he became the commissioner of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics in 1930, because he had apparently dedicated his life to preventing people from having any fun. However, in those early years, Anslinger believed alcohol to be far more harmful than cannabis, even going so far as to say that the idea that marijuana caused violent behavior to be an absurd fallacy. Remember that absurd fallacy line. It's going to be important later. Anslinger got his wish, and alcohol was prohibited in America for 13 years. But since his job focused so much on fighting alcohol, when prohibition ended in 1933, his job was suddenly in jeopardy. He needed to target a new dangerous substance quickly to justify his paycheck, and he set his sights on cannabis. At that point in the 1930s, it was well known that hard drugs like cocaine and heroin were much more dangerous than marijuana. So consequently, marijuana use was much more common. Anslinger targeted pot for this exact reason, figuring that launching a crusade against a popular drug would create a never-ending budget for his Federal Bureau of Narcotics. That's essentially the same as making people pay a higher fine for jaywalking than drunk driving because more people jaywalk, which is the exact opposite of how laws are supposed to work. Anslinger's strategy was so successful that he was able to remain head of the Bureau for 3 decades, retiring in 1962, just before Bob Dylan and the Beatles showed up to really make his life difficult. Remember how we mentioned Anslinger denounced reports of marijuana causing violent behavior as being the very height of absurdity? Well, as soon as he targeted cannabis to be the infinite cash machine for the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, he sought out those very same reports in order to justify his crusade. Anslinger kept gore files filled with violent crimes he thought he could link to the use of cannabis, including one woman who committed suicide by jumping from an apartment balcony and a boy who murdered his entire family with an axe. Marijuana has never been scientifically linked to violent behavior, so the two incidents could have just as easily been blamed on whatever the people in question ate for dinner. Well, meatloaf always makes me ornery. Or, more likely, them having a mental illness. Seems like maybe a department dedicated to the research and treatment of mental illness would be more helpful than throwing people in jail for smoking pot. But, Harry, you do you. You do you. Trumped-up stories about reefer madness aside, Anslinger was looking for scientific evidence to support his case for a cannabis ban. He contacted 30 different doctors and asked for their medical opinion. Of those 30, 29 said that there was no link between marijuana and violent crimes. You can probably guess what happened next. Anslinger heroically ignored every single medical testimony except the one dissenting opinion that supported his case, highlighting the most extreme claims. He later stated that anyone who challenged this viewpoint was treading on dangerous ground. What a buzzkill.
Sounds like our
Anslinger wasn't leading the charge against cannabis by himself. Infamous publishing magnate, friend of the show, and possible war criminal William Randolph Hearst lent Anslinger's crusade a great deal of support, primarily to protect his interest in the timber industry. Hearst was pro-Rosebud, but not pro-bud. He was afraid that hemp paper, which is made from cannabis, would compete with his paper products and take a cut out of his profits. As you might remember from previous episodes of Weird History, Hearst was not a man who valued competition. Hearst wasn't the only one worried that consumers would start writing their crunchy grooves out on hemp paper. The DuPont Corporation also supported Anslinger, fearing that hemp products would overtake their investment in nylon.
Hemp products.
Have you ever wondered why the official name of cannabis is marijuana? Yeah, I have. Well, Anslinger is behind that too. He helped popularize the term because he believed it would associate the drug with Mexican immigrants. This nakedly racist strategy played on the xenophobia people were feeling about the southern border. It was one of the many ways Anslinger used prejudice to frame cannabis as an invading force out to corrupt white America, and it worked like a charm. Anslinger was clearly not afraid to use racism to advance his campaign against marijuana, so you probably won't be too surprised to learn that he falsely branded cannabis use as an African-American problem. 1930s America was only too happy to agree with him, and his virulently racist rhetoric became one of the most effective tools in his arsenal. Anslinger claimed that
African Americans made up only 10% of the population, but 60% of the addicts,
stating that
reefer makes darkies think that they're as good as white men.
Keep in mind, this was coming from the head of a government public health organization, so his words did as much damage as possible. Anslinger's racism pockets were pretty deep, and he wasn't afraid to empty them out in his quest to brand marijuana as a threat to society. Another one of his repulsive strategies was to appeal to irrational racist fears that cannabis use would tempt white women into having sex with people of color. Anslinger claimed that most cannabis users were
Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers
who played
satanic music.
This was considered a legitimate public health crisis in the 1930s. Yeah, so that happened. In addition to greed and racism, another motivator behind Anslinger's campaign to ban marijuana seems to have been his hatred of jazz music. While most crotchety old men would be content to just make fun of it and just listen to the smooth sounds of their teeth grinding, Anslinger took it upon himself to try and eradicate jazz entirely. He's like a villain from Footloose. Anslinger unironically believed that weed gave jazz musicians actual superpowers, arguing that smoking pot allowed them to play
at a furious speed impossible for one in a normal state.
Sorry, Harry, that's cocaine. I'm looking at you, Clapton. He routinely used his power and position to harass jazz musicians, even going as far as trying to coordinate multiple law enforcement agencies to arrest all musicians in violation of the marijuana laws on a single day. A plan that luckily never materialized. Thank Coltrane. Anslinger relied on extreme hyperbolic language to push his agenda, and his rhetoric only intensified as he got older. He once said,
"No one knows when he places a marijuana cigarette to his lips whether he will become a joyous reveler in a musical heaven, a mad insensate, a calm philosopher, or a murderer."
Imagine partying with this guy. Hey, could we get Killjoy a fatty over here? Some of his other greatest hits include suggesting that marijuana would scare Frankenstein's monster to death. that if you smoke pot, you'd likely end up murdering your brother, and that
marijuana is the most violence-causing drug in the history of mankind.
A claim supported by exactly zero scientific evidence. Most of the myths you've heard about marijuana can be traced directly back to Anslinger, so in a way, he's history's most successful hype man. Anslinger's role in creating the war on drugs is pretty clear, but he can also be credited with helping to create the prison industrial complex. Anslinger's goal to jail people for possession-related convictions has led to the incarceration and exploitation of hundreds of thousands of people, in particular African Americans, a subject recently explored in the documentaries 13th and The House I Live In. Anslinger believed that drug addicts, including people who smoke pot, were beyond pity or treatment, stating that
doctors cannot treat drug addicts even if they wish to.
He claimed that the only way to keep people safe was to
throw killer pushers into prison and throw away the key.
Really, we should give smokers a Netflix subscription. Anslinger's racist campaign against marijuana and jazz music collided in his single-minded persecution of jazz legend singer Billie Holiday. Holiday struggled for years against drug and alcohol addiction, and Anslinger hounded her every chance he could. In a truly ghoulish final act of pettiness and hatred, Anslinger had Holiday arrested for possession as she lay dying in a hospital of liver and heart disease. She died handcuffed to her hospital bed with her personal belongings confiscated and an armed police guard at her door. Before she died, Holiday said of Anslinger's crusade, "Imagine if the government chased sick people with diabetes, put a tax on insulin and drove it into the black market, told doctors they couldn't treat them, then sent them to jail. We do practically the same thing every day in a week to sick people hooked on drugs." The selective enforcement of Anslinger's anti-drug policies is best illustrated in how he treated white celebrities with drug problems. When he learned that the Wizard of Oz star Judy Garland was struggling with a heroin addiction, he gave her some friendly advice on self-care before assuring her movie studio employers that she didn't have a problem. He somehow managed to do this without handcuffing her to a hospital bed. When he learned of the impending drug arrest of a prominent Washington socialite, Anslinger intervened and squashed it, arguing that it would destroy the unblemished reputation of one of the nation's most honored families. Evidently, one of the symptoms of being a tyrannical bigot is completely losing your sense of irony. Harry J. Anslinger strangely might be one of the most influential men of the 20th century, manufacturing the public animosity towards marijuana almost single-handedly with a campaign of greed, fear-mongering, and racism that we're still feeling the effects of today. What do you think?
But again, that's exact. I mean, this is the exact playbook that our Ohio GOP lawmakers are playing, right? SB 56, locking people up, probable cause is back in play. If you're smoking in your car and it's parked in a parking lot, you're in the back seat, that is now a criminal offense, fines, jail time. You know what I mean? So again, we have to be, as citizens, we have to be more aware of what's going on at the state level, but also we have to use our privilege because, again, I know a lot of people, oh, well, that won't affect me. I got a house, I got a garage, I got a backyard. You know what I mean? I live out in the country. So, I live in a neighborhood that nobody going to bother me. Everybody don't live in that same situation. You know what I mean? Some people live in apartments, you know what I mean? Where again, and if you live in an apartment, it's time to make some plays. You know what I mean? I know I live by a whole apartment complex that is a no smoking apartment complex, and they own acres. So again, if you locked into a lease and you're a cannabis consumer, I guess you got to switch to edibles. You know what I mean? I guess you got to switch to tinctures. I don't know. But again, I think it's important, because again, the people who have the power at the State House right now are business owners, real estate developers, whoever is pro-police, I guess. But, if you're working class, if you're low middle class, if you're, poor class, they want you to be enslaved. Like that is, all I can really tell you. Like they want you to be enslaved. They want you to be working for low wages. They want you to shut up. They don't want you to speak out. And so I think it's important that people really do what they have to do to really advance. We've come so far, obviously, right? Like getting legalization, getting to where we are is definitely a monumental step. But it's not over. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, we got legal weed and I can go to the dispensary and buy weed. And it's like, that was never like the true goal. The true goal is to free the plant and free the people that grow it and consume it. Legalizing it just makes, again, wealthy people, rich people be able to profit off of it, right? average people can't truly profit off of it, right? You can sell you a couple, you can sell you a couple bags, all right? But you sell one too many, you start popping too much, you start driving nicer cars, you change zip codes. Where all this money coming from? They ain't getting taxed. You know what I mean? So that's how they trip people up. So like, yeah, you may be able to get away with selling some bags. You may be able to get away with doing a few events. But eventually that government is coming for them tax dollars. And that's what we need to understand. And that's why we need the tax money that we voted for to go back to the communities that,
Hi, I'm Clint Smith, and this is Crash Course Black American History. Every nation's government has to create policies. Policies or plans that detail what the government wants to achieve. Some of those policies have good outcomes, and sometimes not so good. Today, we're going to talk about the war on drugs, a policy initiative that has gone on for years. It was designed ostensibly to stop drug use and drug dealing across the United States. But what ended up happening is that it entangled millions of Black people in the criminal legal system for generations. For some people, this was an adverse consequence of a well-intentioned policy.
Man, you got to do the
others,
knowledge.
This is exactly what they wanted the policy to do. Don't believe me? Well, you might soon. Let's start the show.
Some thumbs up, emojis in the chat, man. Hit me up in
the official war on drugs started in Richard Nixon's presidency in the early 1970s, and according to many activists, continues on to this day. Though officially, it hasn't been as much of a national obsession since the end of Bill Clinton's presidency. It was an initiative promoted by the federal government and multiple presidents of both political parties that aimed to stop the use, distribution, and trade of illegal drugs. But the thing is, a big part of how this was implemented was by stricter, more severe prison sentences in an effort to deter drug dealers and users. But the outcomes of war on drugs shows that even if you don't explicitly mention race in a policy, you may still be making a policy about race. Sometimes that's intentional, and sometimes it's not. In order to understand the war on drugs, we have to talk about the origins of the criminalization of Black communities. As we've discussed, this has been consistent throughout American history. But debates on how to address drug use in society began to affect Black communities more directly in the 1960s. Even though President Lyndon B. Johnson is best known for his Great Society legislation and passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, he also declared what was called a war on crime in March of 1965. The war on crime was not exactly the same as the war on drugs, but it put in place many of the same powers that would eventually make the war on drugs as expansive and devastating as it was. The war on crime produced the Law Enforcement Assistance Act, which in 1965 authorized the federal government to take a direct role in militarizing local police. Then, the Safe Streets Act of 1968 invested $400 million in the war on crime and created the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration to oversee the funding. Most of it went to supervise and surveil low-income urban communities, even though those communities weren't the only places that crime and drugs could be found. But low-income urban communities
doing that in the suburbs,
are where Black people often live. These policies and research, like the Moynihan Report, a report on poverty in Black communities, served to develop and spread stereotypes about Black urban poverty. They said that the tangle of poverty and drug use was largely the result of individual and cultural flaws. The Moynihan Report said that, quote, at the heart of the deterioration of the fabric of Negro society is the deterioration of the Negro family. It is the fundamental source of the weakness of the Negro community at the present time. Moynihan acknowledged racism still played a role, but seemed to think that the real issue was the structure of Black families, which, given all the structural impediments Black people were facing, just seems off base. All of this helped lead to the end of the previous war on poverty and shape the rationale, legislation, and policies for the war on crime. Grassroots organizations like the Black Panther Party caught on to what was going on pretty quickly and organized to protect Black communities from the police violence that followed from being over-policed. Black Americans were brutally beaten and harassed by law enforcement, and many of them lost their lives. They also realized the importance of political organizing and cultural power during these times. So they created breakfast programs in community schools in an attempt to provide the resources for themselves that they felt the government wasn't providing them. The war on drugs formally began during the Nixon presidency. He was the first person to use the term war on drugs and stated that drug abuse was, quote, public enemy number one. President Nixon increased federal funding for drug control agencies, and in 1973, he established the Drug Enforcement Administration, or the DEA, a special police force targeting illicit drug use and drug smuggling. The Nixon administration also categorized marijuana as a Schedule I drug, which is the most restrictive drug category in the United States, meaning punishments for being found with that drug would be severe. During Jimmy Carter's presidency, there were some efforts to make drug policy slightly less punitive. Between 1973 and 1977, 11 states did decriminalize marijuana possession. But the war on drugs was far from over. In the 1980s, President Ronald Reagan brought back many of the drug possession and distribution policies of the Nixon administration. The First Lady, Nancy Reagan, even started her famous Just Say No campaign, which was intended to address the dangers of drug use. The Reagan administration also pushed for smaller government more broadly, arguing that the expansion of social resources like welfare programs and increased funding for community programming contributed to a sense of over-reliance and exacerbated perceived social failings. During Reagan's administration is when we see some of the most severe policies related to drug use in U.S. history. They passed harsh penalties at the federal level and encouraged state legislators to implement these harsh penalties as well. This led to a massive increase of incarceration for nonviolent drug crimes, and these policies disproportionately impacted Black and Latino communities. And many argue that the Reagan administration did actually intend to make some of these policies about race. I mean, they created the welfare queen stereotype, a harmful caricature of a Black woman who used welfare checks and child rearing to take money from the government. While never actually saying that the welfare queen was Black, Reagan relied on pretty racist language to promote this idea and used similar language while promoting the war on drugs. In 1986, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, which also had very harmful implications for Black and brown communities. It created longer prison sentences for individuals who used crack cocaine, which was typically used by Black Americans, and shorter prison sentences for those who used powder cocaine, which was typically used by white Americans. For example, if a person had 5 grams of crack, it would trigger an automatic 5-year sentence. But a person had to have 500 grams of powder cocaine to trigger the same sentence. So these war on drug policies had a disproportionate impact on communities of color, because it wasn't just Black people using drugs. A lot of people were using drugs, people of all races and all backgrounds. But the presidential administrations in the United States disproportionately targeted and penalized Black and brown Americans for drug use, and penalizing them more severely than they did their white counterparts. To be clear, crack cocaine had a devastating impact on the Black community. It created addictions, deaths, and drug-related crimes, hamstringing many vibrant communities of color. But it is important to address why this was happening. There were huge structural changes happening within cities. This led to white flight, deindustrialization, loss of employment, rise of low-paying service jobs, and general urban blight. Many Black middle-class families also left the cities for the suburbs as well. The loss of jobs and services in the inner cities led to the growth of alternative economies. It also led to crime and social dislocation. And it was the combination of all of these social, economic, and political forces that contributed to the devastation of drugs on the Black urban community. It wasn't just individual failings. It wasn't culture. During the Clinton administration, the Violent Crime Control Act allowed for over $9 billion to be allotted for prison construction in the U.S. and $8 billion for 100,000 police officers. There was also an expansion of the federal death penalty, mandatory minimum sentencing, and truth in sentencing incentives to encourage states to advocate for harsher punishments without parole. This is also when the 3 strikes provision was promoted in the United States. This meant that a defendant might get a life sentence for almost any crime, no matter how minor, if they had 2 prior convictions that were considered a violent offense. All of these policies created a huge increase in incarceration for nonviolent drug offenses, going from 50,000 in 1980 to 400,000 in 1997. A disproportionate amount of these incarcerated folks were Black Americans. And after all this, the war on drugs didn't even decrease drug use. Some people pushed back against the criticism of the war on drugs and the subsequent consequences of mass incarceration by saying that Black Americans supported it. But that sort of take is rooted in kind of misremembering the past. As the scholars Elizabeth Hinton, Jalili Kohler-Hausman, and Veshla M. Weaver have written, calls for tough sentencing and police protection were paired with calls for full employment, quality education, and drug treatment, and criticism of police brutality. It's not just that those demands were ignored completely. It's that some elements were elevated and others were diminished. When Blacks ask for better policing, legislators tend to hear more instead. Most experts today agree that the war on drugs was a failure. It didn't decrease the number of drugs used in many communities, and it actually had some pretty awful consequences. It was a catalyst that produced the carceral state, a term that, in part, describes the billions of dollars the U.S. government filters into the criminal justice system, which disproportionately affects people of color. That money goes to the budgets of police, sheriffs, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and even prison staff. Here are some of the stats of what the war on drugs actually did. One FBI study noted that while Blacks represented only 12% of all illegal drug users. They made up 41% of those arrested on cocaine and heroin charges. Women, disproportionately Black women, are the fastest growing incarcerated population in the United States. Since 1970, America's incarcerated population has increased by 500%, resulting in over 2 million people in jail and prison today. And despite being only 5% of the global population, the U.S. contains roughly 20% of the world's prison population. According to studies, today, Black and white people use and sell illicit drugs at similar rates, but Black people are roughly 2.6 times more likely to get arrested for drug crimes. And I've seen this firsthand. I taught in prisons where young men have been locked up for doing the same things that some of my white college classmates did. The difference is that one group was targeted and another group wasn't. And oftentimes, that's what decides who ends up in a prison and who ends up free. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Crash Course is made with the help of all these nice people, and our animation team is Thought Cafe.
The blame for the...
One day we're going to get a team. One day I'm going to have a team of people. We're going to have a whole production staff. You feel me? But until then, it's just me. Man, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Ohio Cannabis Report. It's been real. Again, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share. Send this information out. Again, all we're trying to do is educate the community to the best of our ability. Let them understand that, one, we need to be involved in our state politics and our local city and county politics, especially as a cannabis community. I know a lot of times, we can be called lazy. We can be called all types of names. But I know the cannabis community is expansive. I know there are professionals, of all sorts, right? People in administrative jobs, people in executive jobs, teachers, truck drivers, construction workers. I know there's a lot of people out there that consume cannabis. And I'm not telling you got to come out and be like me and smoke on camera or be all, animated on social media to talk about cannabis. But again, you could support people like myself and help us to engage with our legislators, help us to ensure that people that consume cannabis have the resources and the support systems and the spaces to be able to consume, right? Like, we need dedicated lounges. If we can't consume publicly, if we can't consume at a bar, if we can't consume in the apartment, we need lounges, right? But we also need access to the funding to be able to create these spaces, these safe spaces for, adults, right? Cannabis is 21 and over here in the state. But we also need access to education and resources, right? We need to be able to educate our communities on proper ways of consuming cannabis, or proper techniques to grow cannabis, or proper, again, everybody's different. I'm 6'1", 210 pounds. So the amount of cannabis that I'm able to consume versus somebody who's 4'5", 85 pounds is completely different. 100 pounds is completely different. Even people that are my size, like, I'm a pro athlete, college athlete. Like, I've trained at a very high level. I consume cannabis, go work out. But I don't tell everybody to do what I do. So again, everybody has to realize that, one, you have to learn your own body. So if you're coming into cannabis, if you're new, you have to start slow, right? And then, grow as you go. I'm somebody that's been consuming cannabis since I was 17 years old. You know what I mean? So my tolerance level is already pretty high. I do take tolerance breaks, but I use cannabis more for medicinal modalities, right? Like pain relief, anxiety, stress, physical pain, right? So again, I think everybody has to understand why they're using cannabis. What's the purpose, right? When I was younger, it was just to get high, have a good time, laugh, feel good. But now it's literally my pain management system, right? If my ankles swell up, you know what I mean? I need some cannabis, right? Swelling goes down. If my ankles are, just in pain, or my hips are in pain, or my knees are in pain, shoulders, I need to relax. Cannabis helps me do that, right? Instead of going to the pill cabinet, instead of going to get some Tylenol, instead of going to get some ibuprofen, if I had a long day, if I'm stressed out, if I got a lot going on, instead of going to the bottle, I go into my handy dandy jar. You know what I mean? And again, then I go to sleep. I wake up amazing, or I go eat something, or I go for a walk, or I write in my journal, or I do something creative. Right? There's so many different things. But if I'm drinking or I'm drunk, my relationship is going to be completely different. Or sometimes I'm going to go play catch and throw the ball with my son, or I'm going to go ride the bike with my daughter, or I'm going to do arts and crafts with my daughter, or I'm going to spend time with my wife watching, chick flicks or something. You know what I mean? So again, cannabis allows me to do a lot of different things that I think, again, we have to, as cannabis consumers, we have to come out of that closet a little bit and let people know, like, no, like cannabis isn't the only thing we do. You know what I mean? It's a part of what we do. It's a part of the lifestyle. Just like if you drink, some people, they drink all damn day, right? But some people, you go to happy hour or you got a beer tap at work. It's a part of the lifestyle, right? You go out to dinner, you go to a conference, you have a few drinks, right? You go to a party, you have some drinks. Well, as cannabis consumers, we like to, have us a little and keep on about our day. And I don't even like being around a lot of people like that, because especially when you're drinking, people be sloppy. A lot of people would just be sloppy. And I do not like a grown-ass adult that's sloppy on the lick. Get away from me. You know what I mean? And a lot of y'all be sloppy. But again, you got a lot of people on these anti-anxiety pills, anti-stress pills, all these GLP-1s, all the weight loss, right? People don't understand cannabis can help you with your appetite, right? So again, there's a lot of different reasons that people consume cannabis, but those of us that do, it's important that we share our stories and not be so timid and afraid. And again, nobody's telling you. That's why I try to tell people, nobody's telling you to tell that, oh, I'm growing a whole fucking garage. I'm growing a whole fucking 2-bedroom house full of weed. Like, no, talk about what cannabis does for you. Talk about how cannabis has helped you. Talk about the plant. Talk about growing the plant and what it's like growing the plant. Nobody's telling you to promote that you trying to sell the zips. You trying to sell pounds, right? But again, there has to be ways of, massaging cannabis into your story, right? Like, it's like, it's all homegrown. That's just for the clout right there. But that's why they don't want people growing too. They wanted to get the 12 plants down to 6 plants. Because if you really know what you're doing, you growing 12 plants, you can make some good bud out of there. So we're keep it under 55, son. Is this live? Yeah, this is live. This is live on the YouTube. Streaming live on the YouTube. But again, create your own space. There's a lot of people too that get in the cannabis industry and it's like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. Like, yeah, this is just like any other industry, right? You got a job to do. You working in marketing, you working in production, you got to do this, right? And so that's why I chose, one, to be more of a personality, do the media, the social media, because I'm not going into no cultivator trimming no fucking weed for nobody. I'm not going to nobody dispensary selling nobody weed. You know what I mean? I'm not going to a processor doing all this bullshit for these people that don't even smoke weed. All the CEOs are fucking losers, bro. Like, that's what really irks me. Like, like, again, being an athlete, I be in a lot of spaces, right? Being in politics, being a public figure, like, I'm used to being in spaces. It's been hard for a long time. Yeah, I just had to admit it. You know what I mean? Like, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up going to private schools. I grew up being a good athlete. So I've been around this type of person my entire life. The people that just want you around because it makes them look and feel cool. And that's what a lot of these CEOs are. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people, you know what I mean? A lot of pasty folks, they want you around because if you have the athletes around, if you have the entertainers around, it makes them look and feel cool. And I am not on that. Like, I haven't been on that ever, but it's always been weird to me. And so again, a lot of times as an athlete, as a young athlete, you know, I be in spaces just because I know how to move. I just know how to network. I know how to navigate in a lot of spaces. And so just naturally, I'm in a lot of spaces that typically don't look like me. It's not people that, you know, look like me. You know, and so again, people love when you come up with the rings and, you know, oh my God, look at the ring. Oh my God, is that a championship ring? Is that a, oh my God, who'd you play football for? Oh my God, that's so. And it's just like people be fans. And I don't like, that's one of the reasons I don't like social media. I don't like the internet stuff, because people, you know, people be fanned out and I don't like it. I'm a human being. You know what I mean? I just so happen to be a good athlete. I just so happen to be good at what I do. You know what I mean? But again, I like being normal. I like being a human. I don't like the extra attention. Because again, like, people put you on a fucking pedestal and it's like, you don't even know me. You put me on a pedestal from some shit you done seen on Instagram, from a 30-second clip. You do not know anything else about you. Could be watching my social media for 10 years and still not know half of who I am. You know what I mean? Like, I create. I'm a creator. I'm a builder. I do things. You know what I mean? So like, a lot of shit that just comes out is just not, it just comes out. It's just a creative thought. Right. But again, it's not who I am when I'm with my kids all day. It's not who I am when I'm with my wife. It's not who I am when the camera goes off. Like, this shit, for all you know, it's an act. You know what I mean? Like, it's a performance. Right. A lot of this shit is performance. Football, performance. Theater, performance. The circus, performance. WWE, performance. I was a part of WWE too. But again, I tell people I'm an actor. Right. I've been a paid actor most of my life. Right. Like, I don't do it a lot. I do it when, you know, I have some time, but I act. You know what I mean? People get so caught up in I asked my wife to talk how she talk on the news. Like, no, she's an actor. But so many people that just be watching be like, no, these are characters. You know what I mean? Like, the rapper is a character. The movie star, the person in the commercial, they are characters, right? And so again, America's the stage, right? Now we have all these social media platforms, YouTube, it's a stage. Leverage it. More people need to learn how to leverage the things, you know what I mean? Instead of being consumers. We got so many people that just consume. And then when you wake up and you finally realize you were being exploited, it's like, oh shit, well, yeah, it was all propaganda. Like, just look the Harry Anslinger shit, and then look at what Donald Trump doing, and then look at what the GOP doing. They propaganda. They'll spew lies. They'll get it out to the media. They'll fear monger you. Next thing you know, they got you believing some shit that's not even real for generations. Oh, this man said Black people made up 10% of the population, but was 60% of the drug addicts. Just like Black people make up 13, 14, 15% of the United States population, but we make up the most prisoners. We don't even make up the most violent offenders. You know what I mean? But again, it's perception, right? It's propaganda. It's the marketing. It's the news. It's the advertising. It's all these things. But then we'll shield you from all the white collar crime, right? We'll say, oh, well, the Speaker of the House, Larry Householder, had a 60 million or however big the bribe was. And y'all pay more attention to some bullshit than that. Les Wexner is running shit in Ohio. Richest man in Ohio. Got his name on every building at Ohio State. Every healthcare business. Epstein money. Crickets. Now, obviously, there's some people talking about it, but again, a lot of the political figures, Mayor Andrew Ginther still ain't donate his money back. At least you didn't have Shannon Hardin. I think Joyce Beatty gave her money back. And then Les Wexner got both sides. He got the Democrats and the Republicans at the state, county, and city level. Motherfuckers is. But again, you just wonder, a lot of people wonder why. It's all connected at some point. It's all connected. Dispensaries ain't going nowhere. Management and product might change though. Right. I mean, yeah, the infrastructure, right? Like, it's America, right? And business, that it's all about infrastructure. So, right now they are creating Ohio's infrastructure of this cannabis thing, right? But obviously they're selling dispensaries all the time. There's probably a dispensary up for sale right now. I did see Clutch just took over Farkas Farms, I think, or something like that. But again, we have a limited license industry right now. We only have 37 growers. We have 37 cultivators in the entire state that are licensed. Right? So just think about all the micro growers. Think about all the people that grow weed at home. Think about the people that could grow good weed and be able to sell it at the dispensaries. The whole time, we don't have no tier 3. We don't have no craft grow or micro grow licenses, right? And so again, you just have your tier 1, tier 2. So again, that just shows you the scale. Ohio is an agricultural state. We should be growing so much weed. Like, we should be, it's a cash crop. Like, that's what's really diabolical. It's a cash crop. We have Ohio State University, which is a federally legal or a federal government institute. So there should be a lot of research being done at Ohio State. Obviously, we have Central State, which is another federal land grant institute that we already have a hemp program at. And so, again, research is already being done here, or could be being done here at scale. But then you also have hella farmland that we could be growing hemp. We could be growing, weed. Why are all of our cultivators forced to grow indoors? Right? We don't have no outdoor grows. So again, I need people to wake up. Cannabis is an agricultural crop. Hemp is an agricultural crop. Ohio's biggest industry is agriculture. Why wouldn't we be supporting, promoting cannabis at the highest level? All puns intended. For all things: paper, fuel, textiles, rope, clothing, soil remediators, right? Bedding for animals, food, oils. There's so many different properties in the cannabis plant, but we're so and that's why I talk about, smoking, using, consuming cannabis, but for me, it's so much bigger than just the consumption of cannabis for, medicinal purposes, right? Like, no, it's the whole textile aspect. It's what, over 50,000 different uses of the cannabis plant. You know what I mean? So we're stuck here talking and arguing about like low-hanging fruit. But what about plastics? What about fiberglass? What about paper? What about hempcrete? You know what I mean? Like, like the brain waves, like people are just so like down here with it. We gotta raise the vibrations a little bit higher, a lot of bit higher. But that's my thing, you know what I mean? Like we talking about all this bullshit, and it's like, bro, like hemp should be used like I could be AI. Consumers always write company policy. Right. Exactly. But they don't give a fuck. And that's the craziest thing about Ohio, man. Like Ohioans just be taking it. Because one, we can go on Reddit right now, and there's hella people buying weed from all these OCAN dispensaries, talking about how this weed is fire, talking about how they don't pay for overpriced bud. And it's like, where are you people at? Like, why? We'll never find them at the none of the cannabis events. We'll never find them supporting, but we'll go to these overpriced cannabis dispensaries and support and market these cultivators, whole time these people don't give a damn about you. They remediating weed and not even telling you that their weed is remediated. They're not even fighting for the consumer. They're not even fighting to market and advertise their. Think about how ass backwards this is. You have a business. All right. Once you have a business, once you have a product or a service, what do you have to do? You have to market and advertise that product or service, right? So people know that it actually exists, right? They're not even fighting for marketing and advertising for real. Like I've seen they started marketing and advertising a little bit more on social media. But again, like it's not a huge push. The dispensaries can't even have like the sign that says dispensary, like literally the one next to me that's Zips Cannabis just has a 21 plus. So it looks like a strip club, right? Strip club? You know what I mean? So they lack in marketing. They're not doing any real education. In order to get educated about cannabis, you got to go into the dispensary and basically they're marketing and advertising products. So they're not really educating you on cannabis, terpenes, stuff like that. No, we're going to educate you on these gummies. Go buy these gummies, right? We got a good deal on these gummies today. You should go purchase those gummies. But again, these cannabis companies are making money. You know, they've sold $3 billion worth of medical and adult use cannabis over the last 6 years. I think it's been like 1.3 billion for adult use cannabis. So again, they're selling it. Where's that tax money going, right? 36% going back to the GOP run general revenue fund. And then you got 36% that's supposed to go to the cities. But what are the cities doing with that money? I'm in Columbus. I haven't heard a lick about what they're doing with that cannabis money. And I actually need to write them again because I just wrote them an email. I haven't gotten back yet. So, but yeah, you know, that money should be going towards education. It should be going towards expungements. It should be going towards, you know, helping people get involved in the business, helping people, you know, helping the community that has been most harmed. Because that's the thing. Like a lot of people like to like act like there was 60 years, 60 plus years that cannabis was fully illegal and they were leveraging all of this shit to criminalize people. Smell alone. You gotta think we didn't have body cameras like that. Cop pull you over, whoop, whoop, you roll through the stop sign, then turn your turn signal on, whatever. Some bullshit. Roll down the window, smells like weed in here. And if you don't know the laws, a lot of people, black people don't know the laws, so you're just not supposed to say anything. Shut up. Get you out the car, search the car, throw a baggie in there, throw a couple baggies in there. Now it's attempt to distribute. You got a roach in there. Now it's, you know what I mean? You got an illicit substance. Now you're getting locked up. It's that quick. And if you don't have a grandfather, if you don't have a dad, if you don't have somebody that knows the system or has connections, now you locked up. And nobody's coming to save you. And that's how a lot of black men get caught up, young black boys. You don't have a dad in the house. You don't got a granddad. Nobody's a lawyer in your family. My mom a lawyer. So I know the game. Like, I like when they pull me over. Because you better not fuck up. You fuck up, you're getting sued. And I know my rights. And I'm put my hands on the steering wheel so you can see this fat ass ring I got. So you know that I am somebody. And on my car, you're going to see all of my little decals. So you're going to know when you pull me over, I'm college educated. I got a degree. I got a nice car. Don't fuck up. Do not fuck up because I'm waiting to sue the fucking city. I'm waiting to sue the county. I'm waiting. But again, that's stuff that you got to learn, right? Like I grew up in an environment where, you know, I was around highly educated people. I went to private school. I see how my white friends interact with the police. My next door neighbor in the one house that I grew up in, he was a police officer. You know, so again, you just got to learn the system and learn the game because it's all a game. You know what I mean? Again, playing high level sports, You have police officers everywhere. You got escorts to every game. You got escorts out of the game. You got state highway patrol. You got the city cops. You got the school police. You know what I mean? So I got police in my fucking, like, I don't hate the police. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you got to individualize everybody. You know what I mean? All police ain't bad. All police ain't good either. So again, every individual case, you know what I mean? Like, you working for the city, you work for the state. You know what I mean? One, you work for me too, right? Because that's my tax money, right? And that's what a lot of people got to understand. These people work for you. State representatives works for you. State senator works for you. Governor works for you. Police officer works for you. City council member works for you. Mayor works for you. Oh, well, no. Yeah, because you're not in their inboxes. You're not messaging them. You're not contacting their aides. You're not showing up to city council meetings. You're not showing up to the state house hearings. You're not showing up to the places where these people are. And then when they don't do what you want them to do, then you're upset. Well, we voted for you. We voted for this. Yeah, we did. Ain't nobody throwing them out of office right now, though. Like, these politicians are so bad. We should be yanking them out of office. There should be so many of us showing up to the state house that they can't control it and that we could literally take them out of the state house. All right. But again, what do they have people doing? Working, entertained, on drugs, busy, tired, exhausted. And it's like, oh, well, we'll just vote them out. The next party ain't going to be any better because now you got to fix the old issues. And then you trying to implement your issues. And then you trying to, it's all control. It's all manipulation, right? They don't want people to be free. If people are free, then the system breaks. And they don't want the system to break. They want the system to continue to go the way it's going because that is how power remains in power. We should have at least 10 dispensaries per county. Yeah, and probably more than that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm in Franklin County. I know Columbus has 14, maybe even more. Obviously, there's not a huge population in every county, but I mean, there's 11.8 million people in the state, and we have 200 dispensaries. I don't know how many adults that is, but go into the dispensary and tell them what you think. You'll get kicked out. Yeah, and I mean, it's just I've been to the dispensary a few times. And it's unfortunate because it's like we don't have no smell jars. Can't really see the product like that. You know what I mean? They show you the bottom of the jar. You come in the dispensary now. You get something, they'll show you like that. But it's like, I want to be able to smell the weed. I want to be able to see the weed. You know what I mean? Before I buy something. You know what I mean? But again, it is what it is. But that's why we continue to fight. That's why we continue to be vocal and expose what's going on. Because again, more people that know, more people that become aware, the more we can combat some of these issues. And obviously they don't care. And I think that's the biggest issue is that, these people legit don't care what their constituents are saying. And so I'll end it on that, man. I appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. We'll probably be back again in the next couple days. But again, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, Ohio Cannabis Report. We have 2 pages on Instagram, Ohio Cannabis Report, and then Ohio_Cannabis_report. We're on TikTok, Ohio Cannabis Report. We're also on Substack. And so again, I'm trying to get a lot of different spaces. Please, if you support what we do, you can Cash App me directly. Actually, I just got a new Cash App for Ohio Cannabis Report too. Or if you want to donate to our nonprofit, Green Environmental Outreach, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we do support the work of Ohio Cannabis Report. We do a lot of events in the community. And so we're continuing to grow. We're continuing to expand. We're continuing to try to advocate for, the community in a very positive way. And support we support veterans as well. We are a veteran founded and owned 501c3 nonprofit. And so we support veterans and their well-being. And so again, that is GL Nonprofit, Green Environmental Outreach. We are based out of Springfield, Ohio. We do work with Central State in their hemp program in terms of education and awareness. So yeah, I'm just one part of the puzzle over there. I am the president of Green Environmental Outreach, so I'm kind of in charge of strategy, fundraising, events, policy work, and stuff like that. But again, Green Environmental Outreach, you can go to our website, gononprofit.org, and check out what we're all about. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for supporters. We're always looking for funders and people that are willing to fund our mission and support our mission. We're always looking for brand partnerships and opportunities to connect with local businesses to support our initiatives as well. So again, thank you guys for the support. I'm gonna switch this so you can see, boom. So that's our new Cash App right there, OCR Media, $. So again, please support. It helps me, obviously be able to afford to do what I'm doing. I want to get back to, I had the pro version of StreamYard, and I did that for a while, but I wasn't using it enough. So I did stop paying for it. But that does allow us to do multiple streams. So we can stream on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, pretty much all the different platforms that we have. So I would like to get back to that. I did like it, but right now, summertime, again, my time is really constrained. So I haven't been really active on the live stream. But again, all that money goes to support what we're doing over here at the Ohio Cannabis Report. Also, I do have some t-shirts. So I'll show you all the t-shirts. We got some Ohio Cannabis Report merch. So if you want to support the swag, we got the Ohio Cannabis Report swag, basic t-shirt with the Ohio Cannabis Report logo on there. And again, all proceeds go to supporting our mission over here at Ohio Cannabis Report to continue to bring independent news, research, events, and education to you guys. So again, thank you guys for the support. Peace.